Yeah.
not
Can you
too
believe
many.
that? That'll
That's
take us
it.
back into the fives.
That's where we need to be.
That'll take us back into the fives. You're talking about mayhem.
Because let me tell you,
mayhem.
let's talk about 3 topics today. Let's talk about how this rate cut's going to affect buyers.
Yeah.
How this rate cut's going to affect sellers, and how this rate cut's going to be for investors. All right, we're ready to rock and roll. We're talking like real estate right here at podcast.
Do we look good?
We look fantastic.
I think we're on 202.
202.
I think this is good. Is this still good? Yes, it is still
Popular
good. And now I can see you.
Podcast 202, baby. Here
Dos
we
cero
are.
dos. Si, senors.
Si, senor.
Yeah. Happy to be here for number 2 of the second year.
Yes, podcast. Woo.
We don't have our soundboard, and we don't have Steven.
We do not have Steven.
Do stuff
Steven
today.
Last soundboard. And we're making a proclamation to swear less during this podcast.
We are. Hey, you saw that video?
Yeah, I'm not just a maker. I'm also a watcher.
Yeah. We did a little video reading you guys' comments.
Yes.
I think it was
excellent.
Well received.
All right, so we're gonna try to clean it up, and when we mean clean it up, we mean Izzy clean it.
Yeah.
But,
that's definitely on me. That's definitely on me.
But we'll see how it goes. And we're talking about some great stuff in the real estate world that are happening.
Fantastic news.
You know,
give me a break real fast. I need to get my iPad.
Oh, dun, 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 dun. This break is brought to you by the Jeannie Johnson Pub and Grill at 144 South Street in Jamaican Plain. Great food and drink all night long. And now back to Izzy.
Oh,
wow.
Okay, so CPI came out today.
Yes.
All right. It is August 14th at the date of filming this, just so everybody knows. I just quickly want to look at what CPI came in at. I'm pretty sure.
That stands for Consumer Price Index.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah,
Right.
A lot of people don't know that. That's what
for.
CPI is for. PPI came in hot yesterday, and I think CPI, if I'm not mistaken, came in at 2.9 today, which is finally in the 2s. We've been in the 3s all year. So that 2.9 means 2.9% higher than last July, right? So we're finally down to like target range. We're pretty close. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are betting on a 0.5% cut. A half point cut.
That will rock the market.
In September at the July meeting.
That will rock the market.
At the FOMC meeting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people were expecting it to come for there to be a cut in their July meeting, right? They had one July 30th and July 31st. And for some reason, people thought that they were going to have a cut there. But like from what I've seen, they don't. It's very rare that they do implement a cut outside of one of their meetings that has like future projections, right? So the September meeting is going to have their future projections. It's a little blips thingy.
Yeah.
And we've made several videos about it.
Yeah.
You guys can watch that. But yeah, so at that meeting, that's going to be September 17th. That's when they're definitely going to do a rate cut, and people are expecting it to be a full, like a half point.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Can you believe that? That'll take us back into the 5s.
That's where we need to be.
That'll take us back into the 5s. You're talking about mayhem.
Let me tell you,
mayhem.
Let's talk about 3 topics today. Let's talk about how this rate cut's going to affect buyers.
Yeah.
How this rate cut's going to affect sellers, and how this rate cut's going to be for investors. Okay. So there's 3 real good topics to talk about. Let's first talk about rate cuts for buyers. How does that help a buyer?
Well, how's it help a buyer? It's going to be extremely difficult for you guys to find a place.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
The market's going to heat up.
The market's going to heat up. It's going to melt, dude. It's going to melt.
Would you recommend people right now that are applying for a mortgage and even finding a house now but not closing till September, wait to lock their rate because of the rate cut?
If you have a deal, if you put something under agreement right now and the seller is willing to accept like an extended closing and close out after, like late September, yeah,
that'd be great.
I would wait.
Best of both worlds.
I would wait. I would not lock your rate right now.
Get a deal under agreement. Still 60 days away.
Yeah.
And then you close at the end of September.
I mean, yeah, it's like 40 days. It's like 40 days away.
By the time you find the house and do your home inspection, you're going through another week or 2. before you sign that purchase sale.
Yeah.
About 30 days in us or so, 30 or 40. You could make that happen and probably still take advantage of
Oh, I
that
meant
rate
like
cut.
from the rate cut.
Yeah.
We're like 30, 40 days away from that rate cut.
Yeah, well, it's
happening.
the 14th. The meeting's on the 17th.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So
it's
it's
exciting time, I think, for buyers because on the same thought pattern, I believe that sellers will be taking advantage of the lower rate cut. And how are they taking advantage of it? Some of them been sitting in their house at that 2.5% rate.
yeah.
And now they say, well, you know what? I can deal with a 5% rate on the new house. I couldn't deal with a 7, but I can deal with a 5. So now I'm going to sell my house and move to that bigger house, or move to Florida, wherever you want to move to, and get a new loan.
Yeah, they're finally gonna pick up and leave.
Yes.
But so here's the thing,
Which
right?
will provide inventory for the first half of the subject was the buyers.
Well, this is why it's so scary, Eric, is because if there's a lot of inventory on the market, I think we talked about this last time, right? Is if there's going to be a overflow of inventory, all the buyers are still going to be competing for the same houses, right? Which is going to be the best houses with the best list price, right? But there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be putting on their properties on the market, and they're not going to be able to sell it in the first 2 weeks. Right, because everyone's still competing for 123 Main Street, which is like the dopest one that came out, right? And buyers don't submit multiple offers on multiple properties at once. You have to submit an offer at a time, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. In case you didn't know, in case your agent is advising you to do this, do not ever do multiple offers on a property.
Fraud on the other offers.
Yeah,
you can only buy one.
You could also get called out to have to pay for the deposit.
It's ridiculous because you can only buy one property.
Yeah.
Unless you're some like mega millionaire and you're buying like 6 properties.
Yeah, you a Rockefeller, why not?
Buying everything for cash, but typically you can only apply for a mortgage at once for one property at a time. Typically, they're gonna overlap and you'd have issues. So typically you only want one house to live in. And yeah, there may be 3 houses that are in your wheelhouse that you like. Pick which one you can negotiate with. Maybe that's a great time to sit down with your broker. That's why you use a buyer broker a lot of times, is to have this consultation.
That's a great segue because that's exactly what I'm advising. It's like, when this happens, there's going to be a lot of people who can't sell their house, right? So like, don't shoot for the best properties. Don't shoot for the best properties in September. Shoot for the ones that like are still sitting on the market a little bit and that still might be able to get you a deal, right? Because no one really knows what's going to happen. Yeah, the market's going to be hot. There's going to be a ton of buyers that come out, but there's also going to be a ton of sellers that come out, right? And we don't know. There's no way to tell which one has more power. We can't say whether it's going to be a buyer's market or a seller's market.
Yeah.
Like that's a gamble. Anybody who tells you that one way or the other is just guessing, because it truly can go either way.
It's rate driven, which is what we're saying, right? It's rate driven. Then I think it could be, my guesstimate would be probably an equal share, because you got some people that are holding on for a lower rate, sellers, and you got some buyers the same.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to basically be a hot market like it is now, continue to be a hot market. That's where it is here in Boston. I know there's been other areas of the country have cooled down a little bit, but here in Boston it's still extremely hot. For instance, weekend, I took a customer out here in Boston and Rosendale for a single family house, 3-bed, 1.5 bath, $625 asking price. She came in at $650.
Still didn't get
no home inspection.
Jesus.
Okay.
Why they waive their home inspection? Why'd they waive their home inspection?
Well, they were 30 off. When we were there, we had to literally wait. She's been bidding on house, and she wanted this house. That's her max, $650.
Yeah.
And
so she did everything she could.
She did everything.
Waived her contingency. Went $25K over asking
10 houses. So she's like, all right, I get it. Let me just try to get it. And the house looked great. It was extremely clean. And I told her that we'll still do a home inspection. I wanted her to do a home inspection for her knowledge of the house. In this case, I was told substantially higher.
Yeah.
And I thought mine was substantially higher since I went up.
I mean, you went up like 4%. You put 104%.
I always asked 650 because that was her loan approval amount. Yeah.
But hey, in September, people are going to have to probably do 10%. That's my guess. Of course, like we just said, we can't tell. But if for the hot properties, you're going to have to bid 10% over. For the new listings just came out and you see 30 people at their open house, you're going to have to put 10%.
Typically, for buyers out there,
you might have appraisal issues.
I know. Typically, for buyers out there, the best time to buy is after September 1st.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're not fighting with college kids or other people coming in to the marketplace, because a lot of schools and a lot of programs start in September. Everybody's trying to get in their house for September. if you wait and get a house for October and November close, you typically can get a better deal. Plus, it's winter time, and someone who needs to sell a house has it on the market, so there's more of a demand.
Yeah, if you're shopping for deals, November and December. November and December is great.
If you look
Although
at rates,
you still have a lot of competition, right?
Because like, one of the better time for interest rates too, if you looked at historically.
Oh, dude. Also, this is an election year, baby. This is an election
that
year.
Point's going, and maybe another one right before, like a day before the election.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they'll do 2 cuts.
There's one in September, and there's a meeting in September.
There's a meeting in November, but that meeting in November is after the election. So it's already, whatever plans that they had, and if it's for the election, it's not going to affect it anymore.
Like the market, typically a week or so, but even before they make those announcements, they all get the wind of it. I feel like, and they already start moving their rates ahead of the other guy because they're all competing for the same buyer. I filled out an application for a loan request, and I must have got 72 phone calls.
Oh, from lenders?
It was ridiculous. I thought I was talking to one lender. It wasn't. I was talking to one of those, I guess you would call it. And it sent me to a farm of lenders. Like,
that's how it is when you apply for like health insurance too.
Oh my God. Oh yes.
Yeah.
I've done that once before.
Yeah. You applied for a loan? What did you do? Rocket Mortgage? Oh my God. Everybody knows.
Oh yeah. Rocket call.
Yeah. Everybody knows.
Loan America.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. It is, but I mean, like they do compete. That's their bread and butter. So as soon as they find out somebody needs something,
it's crazy.
They jump at it, man. It's nuts. Can you picture the amount of phone calls that are going to happen at that September 17th meeting?
Good times, people.
Yeah. Good times. How many agents are going to be calling their buyers? Whoa, wow. Ooh. We got that policy change happening. Yes, that's going to be tough, man. That's going to be tough for a lot of agents to call up their old buyers who are waiting. Maybe they were working with somebody in 2021 who's been waiting for the 5%, and now 5% comes, they can finally buy a house, but then they potentially have to pay their buyer's agent an extra 1-2% of the purchase price.
I think that may be happening in other parts.
It's not happening here.
It's not happening here. Everyone's going to be paying a buyer. They're not going to be hiding.
Yeah. I'm sure that what's going to happen is, unless your home is stellar, the most amazing listing on the market with the best price, when you tell buyers that they have to pay their own buyer's agent, you won't have that many people submit offers. You'll go from having a property that could have gotten 50 offers, in that first open house, to having only a few to pick from.
It's not a smart move, because when you think about it, that when you go to market, you want to go to market product. You don't want to go to half.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of brokers that work off large corporations. The HR department sets you up with your real estate.
Yeah.
Like, it's all part of, and they're going to help you with moving costs and this and that. And you're going to use this woman, this guy at XYZ Real Estate. Those agents expect the sellers to pay. And so why would you want your property seen by them?
Well, I mean, I guess the idea is that the buyers are going to see that anyways, right? But then they're going to request that their agent book the appointment. The agent's going to have to inform them, like, hey, if you do buy that house, you'd have to pay me, because we can't even take people out unless we have a buyer agreement now signed, right? That actually outlines exactly what we're getting paid, right? And I think this is the silliest thing. We're going to go on an ADD moment over here, but why do people think that this is going to help home prices? Like, home prices aren't going to go down from this. In case anybody
crash the market, because people could be buying properties at wrong values because they don't have any consultation and getting screwed by sellers. The market.
It could. I guess
it's about greed.
I guess it could do that, but I mean, it puts the seller people think that the home prices are going to go down from this, right? They think that I feel like I've heard this argument a few times, where having the buyer agent involved is what caused prices to go up significantly, right? Which is not, I mean, you and I work in the business, right? The way that buyer agents were getting paid was from the commission that the listing agent was making, right? So I, as a listing agent,
part of the commission.
Yeah, it's a commission split, right? So I, as an agent, tell the seller, hey, listen, I'll sell this property 4 to 6%. I typically do 4%, and if I'm dual repping, I do 3%. That's my structures, right? But other agents do 6%, whatever it is. When they sign that agreement with the buyer, they say it doesn't matter if I'm have a buyer's agent or not. This is how much I'm getting paid. Now, if a buyer agent comes in, I'll pay them from what I'm getting paid. There's no additional cost. There's no difference to you, right? Like in my deal, you save 1% if we don't have a buyer's agent. I outline that. But, I guess most agents don't have that. They say, listen, if there's no agent, it's still 4%.
All I can tell you is in Massachusetts, we have a very specific contract listing property. And our listing agreements spell all that out very, very easy. Seller.
Yeah.
This is how much we're charging you. Buyer broker comes in, we're going to give them this. Facilitator comes in. If I work a dual agency, like you said, I'm going to charge you a discount. This.
Yeah.
All spelled out for them. Very easy to read contract, 2-page agreement. That's what we use. But I know there are other parts of the country that don't even have contracts like that at all. And it doesn't spell out who's getting it. And that's why this whole lawsuit started in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
People weren't disclosed what was happening. Here in Massachusetts, the home of many laws, very specific contracts, it spells out where the money is going.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that someone got sued to make that contract. It is. But in either case, our contracts are pretty specific.
Mm-hmm.
And the new, August 17th MLS PIN has been very specific. They're going to have on there exactly what they have now. And
yeah.
I think they're adding one more field. Choose not to pay a broker. You can put that in there.
I also saw one field that said buyer broker agent offered, but not disclosed on MLS. It said, but not on MLS. Right. Yeah. So you basically just have to ask. Right. So like you said, it's very likely that the majority of
it does let you disclose it if you'd like to.
Yeah.
They just give you the option. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah. Most places in the country are actually just eliminating it completely. Right. They're removing it. The whole section.
Thank God ours is not, because I think as a listing agent, and if your seller agrees, buyer broker up front, which I would agree, smart move, put it in the price of the house, let all the brokers know in MLS is around 35,000 brokers know about the commission that you're offering one.
Yeah.
It's going to make your house more desirable than the next guy's.
You know what I think would make the house more? So that's the main reason why they wanted to remove that, though, Eric, is because more people were going to say, oh, yeah, definitely go check out 123 Main Street. They're offering me 3% commission. So, like, for me, for example, right, sometimes when I see a high commission split, I let my clients know.
They've now made that happen, though, because they've now put this in play that now allows people to say, well, I don't want to pay a buyer. So only show me houses that I don't have to pay you.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely going to happen. So it kind of messed up the sellers. I was definitely going to swear there. And I just ate my words.
Thank you.
Yeah. Woo, go. Working. Maury, here's to you. But yeah, so that's definitely the case. But there was 100% this was happening. Agents were trying to convince their buyers to buy the 3% property, right, as opposed to no extra incentive to the buyer, right? Like for me, for example, I am very clear about what I'm getting paid for my buyers. So when there's a property that says 3%, you cut my checks, so you know exactly how many times I give back to my buyers, right? And that's because if I'm getting paid 3%, I'm more than willing to give 0.5% or a full point to the buyer for their closing costs credits, right? It helps me out. It helps them out. Everybody gets real happy. I get referrals in the future. Me being not greedy, has benefited me so much in terms of, my longevity in this industry. But that is not the case for most agents. Most agents will never give up any portion of their
They'll try to do 5%.
Their agents. Yeah. So I'm saying
look at my listings first. I don't know if there's anything out there.
Yeah, I just think that I think it was a good idea with good intentions to make sure that those crappy agents, because they plague our industry, that those crappy agents do get out of the business and no longer have a metric to steer their clients into the places that are more beneficial to them. I think
they do
right
now.
Well, no, I think now that's at the complete discretion of the buyer, and that's the way it should have been. Right now, the buyer gets to decide, hey, I don't want to go see places that I have to pay you. Or they say, yeah, I'll go see those options. That gives the power to the buyer, and I think that that's a fine thing. I'm not mad about that at all. I think it's totally okay. So what if we have to I
think there will be buyers
call somebody
that don't want to pay commission.
Absolutely.
And they will.
They'll have a contract already signed with the buyer's agent.
Maybe or maybe not. There are.
Either they're going to work with a buyer's agent or they don't. And in order, MLS, even our MLS, requires us to have a buyer's agent agreement signed prior to putting up the buyer. I don't know if they were smart and if they actually cared about it, what they would require Kitty's joining the show. If they were smart, and what they would require is you uploading the buyer agent agreement when you create a new contact field for searching. You know how like when we search for client matches, we just upload their email. If they send over a confirmation to the fucking dang it, I'm sorry, Maury, to the buyer, right? If they send a confirmation over to the buyer, being like, hey, are you working with this person? Press yes to unlock. You've signed a buyer's agent broker disclosure thing. But hey, listen, I feel like we've talked a lot about this, and
let's just finalize on the one thing. How's this help investors? Now,
how's it help investors?
Yeah, because right now there's been a lot of property that were, I would call them shovel ready projects, 20, 30, 40, 60, 100 units.
Wait.
That they were going to building, developing.
Are we talking about how the change in rules? Oh, no, we're going back to the rate drop. Okay, wait. Before we go back to the rate drop, let me say one thing about this commission structure thing. This change for the agents who are getting getting their sellers to agree to a 5% commission, and they're going to pay out 2.5, right? They split it evenly. What would be a better option for you guys if you really, really want a lot of people to come and look at your property? Instead of enticing the buyer's agent, entice the buyer. Offer 1% to go towards the buyer's closing cost, and then 2% to the buyer's agent, 2% to the seller's agent. That will get you a lot of people to come to your open house.
Right.
So that's how you truly work your 5% commission. If you're willing to do that, you'll get a lot of people in that door.
And you know what? I also kind of on the same note a little bit. I was talking to a mortgage broker today that had a program where once he gets your customer totally approved for the mortgage, while she's looking, or he or she looking for property, they have a guarantee for seller, $5,000.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people who are doing that. Even Rocket Mortgage. I did deal with Rocket Mortgage, oddly enough. You guys actually did pretty good, Rocket. You didn't do too bad. I was impressed. Really? They weren't my recommendation, obviously.
Yeah.
But I was impressed. They did their job. They were able to close in 21 days. They were on top of everything.
Yeah.
They answered their phone on the weekend, which is the most. Sean is guaranteed rate.
Oh, sorry.
Rocket Mortgage is like the like you see their commercials on YouTube. You guys might actually see a Rocket Mortgage advertisement in this. I'm pretty sure there is. Yeah.
All right, Rocket Mortgage, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. My big thing with mortgage brokers, maybe it's my age, but I need them to get off their ass, call and talk and make a connection.
Oh yeah.
Because I sometimes talk to people and I say, I have a client for you, blah blah blah. Here's their name and number. I'll email them over and all they do is send that person maybe a text with a link to their fill out the application page. And then I talk to the customer later in the day. I say, hey, did you talk to John from Tony's Mortgage or whatever? And they're like, well, I got a text and a link to go to fill out a form.
Listen, you don't get into the lending industry to be social. It's I feel like the lending industry, no, obviously there's no offense to anybody who's in the lending industry, but like that's more of a, I'm going to sit behind this computer and make these numbers work.
Yeah,
kind of feel, like,
if I give you a customer, I want you to call the customer. I want you to connect with them, have a relationship with them. Then say, hey, I'm going to send you the application.
Yeah.
And once that's filled out, I'll call you back and we'll go over it together. I'll pull your credit from the application. Then they feel it's a thing, it's really happening.
Yeah, I feel...
I need that.
I don't want to say that's a tall ask, but...
That's my requirements to work with me.
Yeah.
I need them to connect. It's better for them.
I think so. I think so. I think it'll actually have the people want to work with.
And the guy I was talking to today, actually, he was like, "Well, it'd be better if you could have your customer go a little over ask and help them buy down that rate, get the rates in that. If you get really down there, I'm pretty much getting the 5s right now. Buy down.
Speaking of, if your buyer was approved for 650. Right, and they were approved for 650 maybe like 3 weeks ago. They were approved for 650 this week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say they probably got 25K more in buying power now.
We were down there in the 620s.
Yeah. See, hey, listen, that's how crazy it is right now.
At least 25.
People got an extra $25K
of buying power.
Yeah, it's nuts.
She went from like 620,
and rates are gonna drop again today, dude.
Yeah.
After CPI came out,
if it goes down a little further. See, her biggest problem, We're out there looking. She has 3 kids, and so she needs a 4-bedroom, ideally 2-bath.
That's a tough.
And it's just like there's very few. The city's got a lot of 3 beds, a lot of 2 beds, 1 bath, 1.5 bungalows.
Yeah.
1,200 square feet homes. There's not a lot of the 2,500 square foot 4-bed, 2 baths. They're out there, but there's just not as many.
Yeah, no.
I get that more out in this. People in the city have smaller houses.
Yep.
And out, like, if you go even to Quincy or Weymouth, you're gonna get the bigger houses where you're gonna get and that's where people would typically, after living in the city for a few years, you have 3 or 4 kids, you move to the suburbs and have that bigger house. Yeah. So just lastly, I want to talk about how this rate drop is really going to help the investors and help inventory.
Well, I mean, you finally have jumbo loans under like 6.7.
Right.
Right. Like we've run analytics on all investment properties. Let us know if you guys want to link to the sheet. That's free. But we have analytics on all properties, and we've been running analytics based on 7% interest rates. So like we only just moved up to the 7% interest rates. We were doing 7.5 for a while.
Once we start hitting the 5s, that means the commercial build out people will be getting around 6, or typically a point higher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now they start hitting the 5, 6. They're going to start looking into another project. Right now, there's installed projects all over this. Go on MLS right now and probably find 10.
Yeah.
Easy. Find 10 with plans, architectural plans in hand, approved. I call them shovel-ready projects, and ready to go. And you're going to see some development on those projects when they see that they can get their lower rate, carry the project for that 6 months or a year it takes to build out, which is in turn going to give us more inventory because those are going to be brand new condominium markets. So I think it's going to really help fuel some of the inventory we need.
Yeah.
That we'll be needing 3 months.
I think the main question that people want to know, though, right? And by the way, everybody, leave a comment for some questions that you guys want answers. We'll definitely we'll answer a bunch of questions, or next
put it on
next podcast. Yeah,
next month.
But I think the main question that people want to know is if that's going to affect home prices. Like, do you think that because there's going to be a ton of inventory that's coming out, right? And there's going to be a bunch of properties that sit on the market because, like we said earlier, a lot of people are going to be competing for the same houses, right? Just because there's 100 homes for sale, there's only 10 of them that are getting offers being put on, right?
Bullish. I think that it's just the market's going to just roar through all.
I think so too, because personally, I don't believe that that sellers are going to settle, right? They held on to their homes at 2%. If they can't sell it for the price that they want, guess what they'll do? They'll just hold on to it.
Yeah, they're not.
Or they'll refinance, they'll move out of it, they'll rent it out because now their mortgage is actually, if they had the 2%, their mortgage is definitely less than what the rent can be.
The biggest scare to the market I see is the corporate purchasing of single family.
No. Man, we discussed that. Well, I discussed that. Listen, corporations cannot pass a certain amount, right? Like when a property becomes unprofitable, why would they buy it?
Buying it because they can buy and hold in 5 years, it's going to go up 30%.
That's true.
It's an investment strategy.
That's very true.
It's an asset.
If you can claim losses for a little bit.
Claim losses the first 5 years or break even on the house the first 5 years.
And then eventually you sell it and it's a lot more profitable. 30%. Yeah, that's why REITs exist. That's the thing. They still have to.
When you have a house to John Q buyer and John Q seller buys it, there's a nice, beautiful online transaction going on between a buyer and a seller, and it's happening. And that house is going to hit the market again. And on average, every 7 people sell their property. So it's going to go back on the market. When it goes into that corporate, it's a rental now, and it's not in that flux of buyers and sellers happening.
Well, no, if they're trying to cash out at it with the 30% increase, then yeah, it'll be back in the market. But this is my thought on this, right? Like the corporation won't be the ones that pay 10% over asking. That's my thought on that, right? Yeah. Is that that's not corporations who are doing that.
We're doing it, and they did get a little caught doing it.
Zillow.
Like Zillow and Open Door and a few other companies.
Yeah.
That they ended up shutting that down.
Yeah, because they bought way too many properties at way too high, and they bought entire neighborhoods. And when like the entire neighborhood couldn't sell out, you're showing listings to people, and the entire neighborhood's empty, and nobody wants to move. Right? It's very tough. It's very tough.
Like I say, to me, that seems to be the biggest, thing that could mess the market. Corporate purchase, single family housing, take it out of the stock.
Yeah, I'd really like to see how many the portion of single family homes that are owned by an LLC or a corp.
I didn't know that, but there's definitely, I could think of, BlackRock's one company. It's like 5 or 6 thousand.
Yeah, there's definitely very, very big. There's a lot of properties, but when you're talking about just like thousands, that's not that many, right? It's such a minuscule amount of the market. People get scared about 1,000 because that seems like a big number, but like there's not. That's not a big number. There's like, how many houses do you think there are in America? And every year there's about 1,000 properties that are listed just in Boston, right? In single family homes. For the last few years, we've had over 1,000 listings being sold. If you're talking about a company owning thousands of properties, that's not that many. That's why I don't think that that's going to be that effective. It's not like they're going to have a monopoly on the market. There's still going to be a ton of buyers who are just buying properties. I think if they sell a lot of their stock, a lot of their portfolio at once, yes, that could affect stuff. Yeah. That could cause a dip in home prices, right? And a ripple. And eventually a very big wave. Like a little small ripple can turn into a big wave, right? But I don't think that that's affecting home prices right now. And I don't think that it's going to drive prices higher because they have to meet a certain amount. Like it still has to make sense on paper. Like, for example, I worked with this company called Groma, right? And they had very specific metrics. They buy multifamilies in Boston and they rent them out to like Section 8 tenants, right? And fair market rent as well. But the majority of their tenants are Section 8. Now, these guys, when we ran analytics for them, they were very, very strict about the cap rate for the property, the portion that they could go over the property, and basically their whole shopping stuff. They had rules and regulations for what they can do. And a normal buyer doesn't have that. Right. The normal buyer will always be able to beat the company because the company has guidelines that the normal buyers does not. Very specific. So in my opinion, I think that, they're not going to be the ones that are driving prices up. That's going to be all of you guys who are competing with each other and just being like, hey, I don't want Susan over here to get this house. I want this house. I'm willing to pay 10% over. Oh, is there going to be appraisal issues? I don't care. That's cool. We'll pay out of pocket. I've been saving for 2 years, homie. I've been saving for 2 years. Yeah.
Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller out there, give us a call. Give Israel a call. If you want to check your home's value, things have been changing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You may think it's worth 400 and it may be worth 650.
You never know.
You don't know. So you should get a hold of Izzy. Presentation for you.
Just check out popularproperties.com.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're popularproperties.com. Your home for popular properties.
Because that's where it's popular.
All right. I think we should call it pretty soon.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
We don't got anything else, right?
We're good. We're talking about the rate drop.
Yeah. For those of y'all, thank y'all for staying. Make sure that you guys go out shopping. If you are in the market now, try to get something under agreement before September. Like mid-September.
Lock and load, baby.
Right?
Lock and load.
Yeah.
Get a good property. Get a good deal.
Yeah.
Work with a good agent.
Yeah, definitely do that. Don't be so worried about the NAR rules, guys. Those are going to be fine. You'll sign a contract with a buyer's agent, but it'll outline exactly what happens in the event that sellers do not want to pay. And you can just choose not to buy those properties.
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy. Thanks for coming. Like and subscribe.
Leave comments too. Yeah. Engage with us. Engage wedding rings.